Welcome to Behaviorally Speaking Leadership for Changemakers, where leadership is grounded in behavior, guided by dignity, and designed for change. I'm your host, Dr. Esther Bubb. Let's dive into today's episode. Sonia, thank you so much for joining today. It is so good to see you after so many years. I mean, I know we've been in touch throughout the years, but in terms of seeing you and having a conversation, it's been quite a minute. And I'm so grateful to you for making the time for me today, Sonia. Extremely grateful because you're home in Africa, Sierra Leone, West Africa. So how are you? And tell us a little bit about how you're doing in Africa.
Well, I'm good. As Esther has already introduced me, I'm currently home with my family. So as you can see, I'm happy. I'm refreshed, ready to get back to the U.S. to get into the line of work that I always do, that I do love, but it's just sometimes it can be very draining. I'm here, just came from church, still in my church clothes, and ready to go.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Sonia. So let's start the conversation off just talking about your origin, right, and your leadership pathways. So in your role, Sonia, in Constituent Services leadership, right, what does leadership actually look like in action, Sonia, on a day-to-day basis for you?
Responding to a constituent or a resident when they are in need. One of the most interesting thing I've had to do in this job, I had a lady who needed her husband's death certificate, right? She had reached out to everyone and she couldn't figure out where to get it or how to get it. And one of the reasons why she couldn't get it because they had to do a death investigation. So here it is in a job. Constituent service doesn't sound like you touch into the lives of, a funeral, right? This woman was trying to get her husband's life insurance policy so she could be able to bury him, so she could be able to close out whatever chapter he is. And she couldn't get it. So here it is. I am getting on the phone, calling the state medical examiner to say, what's going on? Where's this lady's death certificate? Because she needs to do the rest of her stuff. So constituent service for me in a leadership role means that you are always on the call and always willing to step in for people who may not know what they need to do, but they know they need somebody to step in. So
wonderful. Thank you. It seems very far-reaching. The story you shared about the death certificate, that's just something that wouldn't have come to my mind, Sonia, being honest, thinking of constituent services. But it makes sense, right? Serving the constituents and supporting them with their needs. So having said all of that, it seems very interesting and very fulfilling at the same time, right, Sonia? So what drew you to this work and what behaviors or mindsets have helped you stay committed even when the work gets hard?
So when we last saw in college, right, my plan was to become a medical doctor. I was a chemistry major, finished, and I was ready to go and serve the world, right?
You were.
And when I was in school, I had this job that I was doing CNA or certified nursing assistant. And I realized that wasn't my job. That wasn't what I needed to do because unfortunately I had 7 patients during the summer and all of them died, right? And I found myself taking myself off from work and going to funerals, right? Yeah. How could a doctor that had a practice, unfortunately, a few of your patients died, and you had to close your office while you still need to pay your bills and go to funeral service. So I realized at the onset that medical school wasn't for me. And so then I was like, okay, let me figure out what I need to do. And somehow I found myself in customer service, right? Serving people because I want to help people as best as I can when they need help. And customer service was the first draw to me into constituent service. And then constituent service just came because I like politics. I like advocating on behalf of people. Yeah. And I just like to talk to people in general. So it's the best of both worlds.
Yeah. I love that. Thank you for sharing that story. Looking back on your journey, from growing up in Sierra Leone to at your life here, our lives at Cheney, right? And then everything in your life thereafter. What would you say are the key experiences, Sonia, or influences that most shape how you lead, how you respond, and how you serve?
One of two people. One is my grandmother, right? My grandmother was a very much community person, and she was always giving. She never complained, right? She was always out there. There were people who she said were my cousins and family members. When you research, they're not even close to your family tree, but she was always out there giving.
Yeah.
And then I look at my mom, because now we're faced with a crisis where, as immigrants, right, we are faced with being told we don't belong in a country that once wrapped us around and with an embrace, right?
Yeah.
And so I look at my mom's experience and I said, well, when she came, she didn't have anything. And she was still faced with trying to provide for her family, trying to be there for her siblings that are back home, right? So I think about her and say, well, if my mom could do it, she left her country, came to America, and she's there serving. She was there. She was an iron lady. She was an iron lady. I can do it. But I look at her experience where she shared with me that she was homeless, unhoused, that she came and she was undocumented, that she would, she couldn't figure it out because she was the only person in America. She didn't have family. She didn't have anything else. And so when I go out and serve in my role as constituent service, I think about what my mom experienced and don't want other people to experience the same thing. So you will find me advocating for immigration, which people will say, why? Because, we need to talk. Because those of us that have a voice, we need to talk for those who are being marginalized. We need to talk for those who may not understand what's going on. They know that America is where they belong, because unfortunately, we no longer belong in the country we once came from, right? Because we've stayed in America for however long. Yeah. And we don't quite fit in any of those molds, right? So my advocacy is for people who don't feel like they quite belong. It could be that single mother that, doesn't know what she's doing in her role as a mother. Or you could be that father, that man who's experiencing mental health illness that doesn't know what to do. So, the advocacy is just to be able to talk for someone who needs you but don't know what they need, right? Yeah. I know I need to go to sleep. How do I go to sleep, right? Yeah. Do I go? You understand? You understand how it is. Yes. Right? I'm sleepy. But I can't quite tell you I'm sleepy, right? And I'm just acting up. So it's like you need to slowly walk them to that process, whether it's trying to find them jobs, whether it's trying to make sure that they find homes, whether it's even trying to advocate for those mothers who their food stamps is being cut. There's different ways, but it's just making sure you put yourself in that position and talk for them.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that, Sonia. It's a lot in everything you said that I could relate to, thinking of moments of crisis, moments of crying, moments of frustration, moments of not having, moments of wondering what's next, moments of wondering, are my days numbered? So I can totally relate to that. And I truly appreciate you sharing that, especially as an immigrant myself. So, when in saying all of that, Sonia, and thinking of moments of crisis, but thinking of the need to communicate and still maintaining trust, right? When people come to you when they're frustrated or they're in crisis or they're down, right? Or they're in tears, how do you communicate, Sonia, with compassion, but still while maintaining clear boundaries, right? Given your role, and what behaviors do you engage in that makes that possible?
You have to be personable, right? Every person wants to be able to relate to you. So if I come and a lot of people understand this about me, is that I treat you like I want to be treated, right? Okay. So I come, I listen, I don't judge, I offer a shoulder. Sometimes I go above and beyond. I go with you to, I'll give you an example. Before coming to Africa, I had a resident who needed to go to the hospital, right? She
Okay.
doesn't quite have a relationship with her kids. And she's someone who reaches out to me quite often, and I hadn't heard from her. So I reached
Yeah.
out to her. She said, "Oh, Sonia, I'm here. My back is hurting, but I don't know what to do," right? She said, "But I don't want you to come. I don't want you to do anything." So I said, "Okay, well, I'll give you a week," right? Gave her a week.
Yeah.
I didn't hear anything. I called, right? I
Yeah.
went to her apartment, and I took her to where she needed to go. So it's like putting yourself in that position that, it's not about numbers. It's about a person that is a human, that has a
Yeah.
heartbeat, that breathes with you. That woman
Yeah.
is so thankful. She tells everyone, Sonia is my daughter. She tells, I've only known this lady about 3 years, and she will
Yeah.
tell me everything about her life, right? But it's
Hmm.
just being able to connect. Find
Yeah.
something with a human that you can connect. It's not about me getting a paycheck, because beyond a paycheck, when somebody suffers, we all suffer. So I
Yeah.
take it from that perspective. I communicate, I talk to them, I go out and hang out with them. Sometimes, we may not have time, but hey,
Yeah.
just make something.
Yeah, yeah. No, I appreciate that, especially your focus on being personable, your focus on the relationship, right? Your focus on seeing them as a human, as a person. And I 100% agree with that. But I can tell you, Sonia, when it's challenging for me, and obviously it's something I'm working on, is when you feel like someone is doing something to you to wrong you, or the child, you know what I'm saying? So like still seeing them as a person, as a human, and they're experiencing what they're experiencing and reacting the way they're reacting because of what they're experiencing. So that's tough, but it's something I'm working through, right? So saying all of that, Sonia, and thinking of like behaviors we can change, right? Where do you see the everyday behaviors of individuals or teams driving success or failure? And I feel like the example you gave is a good example of, how your systems can be successful. But what are some behaviors, in your opinion, that drive success or failure in systems?
I think we can be like, as you're talking, we have to learn not to take things personal, right? We can be
Hmm.
personable, but not take
Right.
things personal, because you got to understand that someone in a crisis may behave differently than someone who is having a fun time, right?
Yeah.
So if someone is there cussing you out, expressing their frustration, um, you just listen. I don't take it personal. I try to figure out, okay, this could be me, right? I remember I
Yeah.
used to work in the tax office, and people will call, and I tell people every December, like now I don't really talk on the phone, right? But every
Yeah.
December, everyone will go and file their tax return. And in December, after Christmas, everyone have crisis, right? My
Yeah.
grandmother died. Somebody just got robbed. Somebody got sick. And I had to start thinking, these people, maybe they don't understand what the process is, in terms of filing your taxes, what it needs to be done, how long it's going to take. They
Yeah.
just know that they want money and they want it now, right?
Yeah. Hmm.
And so, learning that people, like, there are times that, and you can see it. There are times where people really are actually in crisis. And then there are times that they go into crisis because they feel like they need something at that time, right? For
Right.
example, after Christmas, they done spent all their money, right?
Yeah.
And now they think their tax returns should come in 1st of January, right? So that they
Yeah.
can pay off the bills, but it doesn't happen. And so you have to teach people that they have to be patient with the process, right?
Yeah.
That
Hmm.
you're listening to them, and that you, like, let's say you give them timeline. If someone comes to me and say, I need something from you, I would say, okay, maybe in a week or 2 weeks, let me see what I can do. But then
Yeah.
you have to do a check-in with them, right? Because when people know that you still care about what they told you about, and
Yeah.
you're doing that check-in, even if you can't solve the problem, and you're checking in with them, they're like, oh, okay, she cares. Okay, she cares. And then when you do the check-in, you have to say, okay, I remember I told you I was going to do this. This is the steps I've taken to try
Yeah.
to alleviate what your problem is. And unfortunately, I'm still at a standstill. Let me go think about it. Maybe give me another week. And that's where we like I said, you have to put yourself in that person's position, right?
Yeah.
Because if I'm in need, I want to
Yeah.
solve now, right? And
Right.
if Esther has that means of solving, I would be frustrated with you because if you didn't do a check-in with me, you didn't call me, you don't look like you're concerned, I will be mad at you, right?
Yeah.
Even
Yeah.
though we have to understand there are red tapes, you can do but so much, right? There
Yeah.
are other people that
Yeah.
need to help you push the fully forward. But
Mm-hmm.
if you start telling people, okay, I've done this, I've done that, then it becomes less of an issue because people, all they want to do is hear somebody talk.
Yeah. Yeah. Wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. So the check-ins, that's a takeaway for me from,
Yeah, yeah.
what behaviors people can engage in that leads to success. And I
Mm-hmm.
think for me, it's also taking that step of like putting in my calendar or whatever, right? So I get that reminder to make sure it actually happens. So I like that you shared that. I think the check-in is very important, and you use the word care. It shows people that
Yeah,
you care,
you're
because at
there.
least,
Yeah,
yeah, especially in our world, Sonia, where it's around the clock, right? It always goes. And at
we,
some
but,
point we
but,
have, yeah,
but, but we are like, for example, you and I, we
yeah,
find ourselves in that unique position, right?
yeah,
Where, people back home expect you to
yeah,
care for them, right?
yeah,
That's one of the unique position where Americans don't understand that, as an immigrant, we have the extra burden of not only
yeah,
caring for our children, not only caring for our parents, right?
right,
But the burden back home is like you're carrying the load of your family back home,
yeah,
and until they can relate to that, right? They
yeah,
don't understand that path of an immigrant. But then
yeah,
also, we've been here long enough that we understand, right?
yeah,
That,
mhm,
we have to care for who we need to care for, but not care too much where we become burnt out,
yeah, 100%. I love that you
right?
added that. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
because we do have that additional burden on us in terms of, our family and associates
yeah,
back home. Yes, yes,
yeah.
yes, yes.
Because they
Um,
think like you're in heaven, right? They think you're in
yes,
heaven, and and they want something from you,
yeah,
and and then unfortunately you may have one or two neighbors who are doing a little bit better
yeah,
than, but they may not have that extra burden of caring for children or something like that, so they can afford to spend money back home, and
yeah,
you only spend like $1. They're like, girl, that is
yeah,
not enough because Sister Betsy's daughter just bought a mansion for her and she has a Mercedes Benz, and you're just coming here and giving me some little crap,
yeah,
so anyway, like you said earlier when we started, we have to offer ourselves grace
yeah, yeah.
because they don't understand.
They don't. Yes, exactly. Can you share an example, Sonia, with changing a behavior, right? So not just a process, like, all right, this is our new system, but like our actual behaviors led to better outcomes for your residents. And then what specifically changed that made that difference?
So a lot of times, we have people who don't know that their voice is power, right?
Mm,
That they can advocate on issues where people don't understand that they can advocate on their behalf, right? So whether is like we had an issue in Prince George's County where seniors
yeah.
living in it's supposed to be affordable housing, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
And the landlord was raising the rent to like wazoo, like 20-30% every year. Like, these people are on fixed income. They
Yeah.
didn't realize they could come and make action to change it. And
Mm,
until they could see that, until I kept on going. I remember the first time I went to the house. Remember the one I told you, the lady about, her needing to go
yes.
to the
Yes.
hospital. So I went to the apartment complex, and she says, "Oh, they're gonna call the cops on you." I said, "I've been arrested at better places, right?" And so
Yeah.
I said, "I'm gonna still come. I don't care if they arrest me." But I kept on coming. What I would do is when I had something to talk to them, each and every one of those doors, I will leave a leaflet, right? I could have left
Mm,
it at the lobby. I could have left it just in with the management. I went to each and every one of their doors, listened to them, right? And let them
mm,
know you can come whenever there is a hearing about, affordable housing or rental increase, come. They
yeah.
came and they were able to advocate a 6% every 2 years, which was better than just having to pay 10,
Yeah.
20% on fixed income. So, they were able to see that their voice mattered. And
Yeah.
also, even now in the immigrant community, right, where we have, a lot of immigrants are all about parties, going to church, or going to work. But now they realize now they're the ones being cooked. Now they're
Yeah.
coming out to talk. But a lot of times, I don't know if you've watched what I share on Facebook. I'm usually sharing,
Yeah.
I'm going to a mosque, right?
Yes.
I just shared to you, I just came from church. I'm a
Yeah.
Christian, right?
Right.
But I realized having to get these people to come, I had to become one of them. I had to
Yeah.
go in the midst and talk to them. And the more they saw me, the more they
Yeah.
became comfortable. And now they're out there trying to talk and change the trajectory of their lives. Because I
Yeah.
tell them, you're thinking about back home. A lot of them, oh, this party at that party, this thing, that thing. But we've had our children, your daughter, as much as you will say she is your daughter, she recognized that you are from
Yes.
wherever, right? She would
Yeah.
never go there. She would never pack her stuff and go stay there, right? She's an American, right?
Right.
As immigrants, we have to speak for our children because they are uniquely American, but they're not uniquely that full American because they have our culture. They have
Right.
everything that we put in them that they have to come and thrive in an American society. And we have to be the voices to explain who our children are, right?
Yes.
That our
Yes.
children, we don't want them to be mediocre, right? We want them to be, I don't think I want my children to be C and D student, right? B and A, right?
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
so we have to be that voice. And now we're getting our immigrant communities, we're getting our seniors, we're getting people who in the past never thought they could talk. They're coming
Yeah.
up to talking now. So, being, like I said, being out there and having them
Hmm.
see that it's possible is making it possible that they're changing their behaviors.
Yeah, I love that, Sonia, because again, it goes back to your care, right? You cared enough to go to each and every door, thinking of each person individually, thinking that they need the information. And it makes me think of like equity, Sonia,
Mm-hmm.
access, and community impact. And you're having such a grand impact on your community and your constituents and your neighbors and the people, your residents, right? And it's making me, I'm asking you this, but I'm thinking of it also on the other end of the spectrum. So like, what are some of the things you do, Sonia, to make sure that the services you provide are not just available, but like accessible, right, and equitable, so people can get to you, they can get to the services. But to your point about immigrants getting out there and joining the cause, it's also them accessing the knowledge, right? So if you go out there, you hear and you get the knowledge. So what are your thoughts on access in both fronts, on both fronts, so that they can access the locations, the services, but they can also access that knowledge and be informed and be able to participate and lend their voice to the cause?
So, like you said, you have to be, because a lot of people in our immigrant communities,
Yeah.
right? I'll take, for example, as a Sierra Leonean,
Hmm.
in Sierra Leone, you're not supposed to talk to authority, right?
Yeah.
When
Yeah.
someone in authority says something to you, you're supposed to shrivel and just do what they're supposed to do or do what they told you to do.
Yeah.
Well, and so that same behavior, we're practicing it in America, which is different, right? So in
Yeah.
America, where you're supposed to come and say, give you an example for like within our immigrant communities, we are not equipped, right,
Hmm.
to stand up to authority because from where we come from,
Yeah.
we're not able to challenge, or we're not allowed, or we're not encouraged to challenge authority, right? If the
Yeah.
minister said for you to roll down the hill, you just put your shoes on and just roll down the hill,
Yeah.
and you roll in the direction they told you, right? But in America, you're supposed to at least, the very least, say, I don't like you telling me to go down the hill, right?
Right.
Even if you end up doing it, but you say, I don't like the way you're telling me to go down the hill. Can I do it a different way? Can I walk down the hill, right?
Yeah.
And that's what we're trying to do, change those behaviors within our immigrant community, because a lot of times we're so focused, like I said, about back home, and we
Yeah.
don't think
Yeah.
about where we are, right?
Yes.
That we can
Yeah.
go. and access these information, whether it's about immigration, whether it's about school, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's about our housing situation, whether
Mm-hmm.
it's, another thing I'm thinking where our lack of knowledge is getting us into trouble, right?
Yeah.
Is that when it comes to the court system, right?
Yes.
Because
Yeah.
a lot of times we just say, okay, I don't have the money to go hire a good lawyer. So we get a public defender, and the public defender says, you know what? You don't want to go to jail, right? Yeah, I don't want to go to jail. Who wants to go to jail? Just do 30 days, whatever, and that's going to come away from you, right?
Yeah.
But a public defender doesn't realize that a regular born American citizen versus an immigrant that has a green card, it's two
Yeah.
different things, right?
Yeah.
So that immigrant goes ahead and pleads guilty to whatever, takes the plea agreement. And then now they're faced with being shipped back home because now, in Pennsylvania is very much, a felony or whatever. Pennsylvania is quick to try to get you out.
Yeah.
Right? And so
Yeah.
here it is, you thought you gotten that trouble out of your head, right? And then you're coming in and facing everything else. So I've gotten into now that expungement, not only for our American born citizen, but our regular immigrants, because expungement is going to be that key that keeps them glued to America, right?
Yeah.
An American would say, okay, I have this issue. Okay, well, let's go do an expungement, and then you'll be able to get your job. There are ways where if you have a criminal record, they're not supposed to discriminate, right? So
Yeah.
making it equitable and accessible to our immigrant community, that's where my voice started like merging between, understanding where you come from and understanding where you are. That's where the merge came, where, I'm over there running my mouth all the time.
Yeah, yeah, no. You shared so many valuable points there, Sonia, but the one that's really sitting with me is, knowing where you're from and knowing where you are, right? So it
Mm-hmm.
reminds me of this, old age adage, when you're in Rome, do as the Romans do. It makes you think when you're in Grenada, do as Grenadians do. When you're in the US, do as the Americans do. So it's like adapting to where we are and shifting our mindset and our beliefs and, how we were taught growing up. Because you mentioned, you just do as you were told. And we have the same back home that we heard from parents, when I was growing up, speak when you're spoken to, answer when you're called, right? Essentially the same thing you just said. And so we have to be able to know, like, here, we need to speak up. We need to share a voice. We need to learn. We need to be educated. Also, Sonia, like back home, and I feel you would say the same, it's like you just swallow what you hear. You just believe it. You don't investigate. You don't research. You don't challenge, right? As you just said, we have to challenge sometimes. All right, I heard what you said, but I don't like the way you're asking me to do it, or I prefer to do it this way, So I think it's a lot of those things that can fuel change and how we can support ourselves, our constituents, or our fellow immigrants, our neighbors, our children, right? As leaders and based on our experiences and knowledge. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you shared a lot there, Sonia. Is there anything else you would share in terms of shifts or changes we need to make as leaders to better meet the needs of our communities?
I think one of the things as leaders in our communities is that understanding what your community actually needs, right? Because like I'll give an example. When you look at food drives, right?
Yeah.
The basic food drive gets cornflakes, the canned foods, the beans, the packaged beans, the non-perishables, right?
Yeah.
But give that to an immigrant, they don't know what to do with that, right?
Right.
So understanding what the community that you serve, whether it's an immigrant community or whether it's Native American born community, what they actually need. Because I cannot give an immigrant community packaged food. Because they will look at you like, what the heck do I do with what you call it? Vienna sausage, right?
Oh, right.
You give a package. Like, what would I do with a package of Vienna sausage, right? So we have to understand the communities that we serve and be able to advocate based on what the true needs of those communities are. Whether it's is saying, well, like my community, we have a community garden, right?
Yeah.
And usually what they plant is just peppers and tomatoes. But then we have a growing Hispanic community, right? In my
Yeah.
community, we need to give them some space to grow whatever the heck they grow. If it's yucca, whether it's whatever else that's going to help them feel like home, we have to start talking based on what our community needs. And we only know it if we go out in the community and actually talk to the people, like I said, always talking, always listening, and always
Yeah.
being a part of the conversation.
Yeah. So on that note, I have a story to share, and you'll appreciate it, Sonia. But it goes along with what you're saying, knowing the people we're serving, knowing their history, knowing their background, knowing their culture, knowing what's important to them. It makes me think of cultural humility, like not necessarily cultural competence, like, all right, I have to know every single thing about this culture, but just being curious enough and inquisitive enough to ask and learn, right? So I remember supporting a team in the past who was supporting a child, with an IEP, so special education student, preschooler, so 3 to 5. And the team in the IEP meeting was just really talking to the mom. So the mom is African, right? The child was born here, but that African culture. And so they eat with their hands. And so the team just kept pressing and pushing to the mom that, all right, we need to teach your daughter how to eat with a fork. And to the mom, this was not something that was important to the mom in that moment. That was not her priority, right? Because eating with a fork was just not something that was important to her in her culture. The other things that were important to her was a missed opportunity for the team to find out and really prioritize on that. All right, we can work on that later, but in this moment, it wasn't a priority for the child. Or for the mom. So really understanding what the needs are. I really like that you share that, because sometimes we overlook that and we put what our perspectives are on them and expect them and want them to do the same,
Yeah, we have to learn to be culturally sensitive, right?
Yeah.
And also religiously sensitive, because where you have the cross of, you could, like the mother you were talking about, she could have been an African Muslim, right?
Yeah.
It's another different perspective versus, her being an African Christian or like, we always have to be culturally sensitive, because as Americans, we just think things have to go the way as an American, right? You eat with your spoon, you come home, you talk, you do whatever. And as we're talking, I'm thinking, where we have that, me and you, I know we have that, where back home, you're not supposed to look at your family in the eye, right? But in America, if you don't look me in my eye, you are lying to me, and I don't believe a word you're saying, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
How do we fight that? Right?
Yeah.
How do we fight that? It's like, as you can see, as we're doing the interview, I'm like looking away and trying to look at you, looking away and trying to look at you, because like we're caught in the middle of a culture shift, a paradigm, right? We're like we're like standing on two shifts, like two plates, and so we can be culturally sensitive, and we have to like extend that to other people, understanding, some people, to me might seem very weird, might be just that cultural norm, right? Just accept it.
Yes.
The mother, like you said, shared earlier, my priority is for me, my children to get to know their culture, right?
Yeah.
And with that also meant that I had to teach them Creole, right?
Right.
But when you go in and you're answering, and I have a child who does IEP, but when you go in and answer some of those questions, it's like you technically have to like lie and say, I fit in this box. But my child really don't quite, child don't quite fit in that box. And I don't quite, I don't even know what box I fit in. Right? Yep. I'm like the little middle of the pie, and my foot is all everywhere. And my child is like standing next to me, because they quite know that they're American. They know they're Americans, but like they don't quite understand the American culture, because I'm trying to busy infusing my African culture, like scraping it in their head, right? And America's like, no. It's like, you can't. So trying to be culturally sensitive and understanding that people are people, and you have to meet them where they are, regardless of what you serve or regardless of what you bring. Someone will not be willing to accept you if they can't relate to you. So you have to be relatable when you offer service. If you're not relatable, you can be Moses and part the water and be able to solve all their problems. But if they can't relate to you, it's for nothing.
Yeah, that is so true. To be acceptable, you have to be relatable. I love that. Yeah. So that's another takeaway for me, Sonia, from everything you've shared. So to close us out, right? What is one Monday morning move or a specific behavior that listeners can implement immediately to start creating meaningful change, whether it's within themselves, their work space, or their communities?
You have to start with yourself, right? You have to offer yourself grace. Each day, even though it's 7 days, it repeats itself every year. We have the same. It looks like a cycle. Each day is different. As a woman, as a mother, I offer myself that grace because I don't understand anything. Every day is something new, and I'm willing to learn, right? I'm willing to take that time to come home, decompress, right? We don't have to be going 24/7. Even the machines and in the hospitals, even the clouds take time to refresh, right? If a cloud can refresh, you need to offer yourself that grace to just shut down and go and do something, take yourself away, and then come back and say, okay, where did I log off? What did I last do? Take your time to understand that every day is different, right? That you have an opportunity to do something different the next day, even if you're faced with the same challenge. And then offer your children, if your mothers or your aunts or your uncles or whatever, offer your family member that listen ear, right? Because at the end of the day, somebody needs to listen, right? Somebody needs to listen and somebody needs to talk, right? And all some people need is just to have somebody listen to them, right? It's not about you trying to solve their problem. Just listen to them, make them understand that they're human, make them understand that they're valued, make them understand that they're loved, right? And then, the rest, just leave it up to them. For me, I pray. I wake up early in the morning. I pray, right? Some people say, why do you get up early? I get up because I want to pray, because I want to first connect with God, right? When I connect with God or whatever higher power or whatever spiritual power, even if it's not waking up and praying, you may not have to do that. You may just have to take that time to just reflect on what you need to do for the day, right? Plan. Mine is praying. But you can do another P, plan, right? Plan your day ahead so that you're not overwhelmed, because you can plan, but things can change. But at least you know what a map looks like for you so that you don't become too overwhelmed. So offer yourself grace and always be thankful.
Yeah, I love that. Offer yourself grace, be thankful. You also said step away, refresh, give yourself a break.
Look, even if just think about it. When you look up in the sky, the cloud refreshes, right? They move, but they slow down, right? Even your iCloud, it refreshes. It doesn't just keep going, right? It refreshes. Offer yourself grace in that time.
Yeah, wonderful. Well, Sonia, thank you so much for joining. Like I said, especially taking your time in Africa to spend with me. I wish you all the best. Really good work, what you're doing, Sonia. Really proud of you too.
Thank you very much. I am proud of you too, Esther.
Yeah, all the advocacy and all that stuff. So I wish you nothing but the best.
Thank you very much, and always reach out. I'm always here. Thanks.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you for listening to Behaviorally Speaking Leadership for Changemakers. Be sure to visit esthercbubbabaservices.com/blog for today's companion blog and additional leadership resources. Until next time, create the conditions for growth wherever you lead. I'm Dr. Esther Bubb. Stay inspired.